We keep being told that the federal government can't afford to pass policies that benefit regular people. There just isn't money there for it. And I think I've figured out why. The House voted to approve the new National Defense Authorization Act today, setting the military budget at $858 billion for 1 year. And that doesn't even represent all the money we will spend on national defense. We're gonna get it up to and possibly exceeding $1 trillion, don't worry. But first, the details. The vote was 350 to 80 in favor of this. There were 45 Democrats and 35 Republicans who voted no. We're gonna get into some of the people who thankfully voted against it, but this is actually more than we initially thought would be in the budget. It's $80 billion more than just last year, $118 billion above 2 years ago. And by the way, it doesn't include all of the money that goes towards maintaining and improving the US nuclear arsenal. Whatever money goes to contribute to Ukraine's defense or veterans benefits, that's all separate. This is just the raw defense, close to $900 billion for a single year. Now, what else is included in this? Well, it includes a provision demanded by many Republicans requiring that the Secretary of Defense rescind a mandate requiring that members of the armed forces get COVID-19 vaccinations. We want our soldiers to be well equipped and dying of needless respiratory infections, apparently. It provides Ukraine with at least $800 million in additional security assistance next year. That will of course be supplemented many times. It also includes a range of provisions to strengthen Taiwan amid tensions with China, as well as funds to develop new weapons and purchase systems, including the F-35 fighter jet and ships made by General Dynamics, including, by the way, continuing weapons programs that the Biden administration had tried to cut. It includes a new guided missile destroyer worth $2.2 billion that the Biden administration didn't want. And so how do you get to $858 billion? Well, you give every military contractor everything they want and some things they didn't even expect to get. That's how.
Yeah, so my main question is, how are you gonna pay for that? Okay, so we hear that every time there's a bill that would actually help the average American, paid family leave, child tax credit, Medicare for all, free college. How are you gonna pay for that? How are you gonna pay for that? How are you gonna pay for that? This is a monstrous bill, laden with pork, like greasy pork just oozing out of every pore, right? And that's why the Republicans and the Democrats all of a sudden found bipartisanship. Oh, they can't agree on anything. Which gender is Mr. Potato Head? Democrats say this, the Republicans say that. Critical race theory, it's not taught anywhere, it's not even an issue. But they can't agree, they have so much disagreement. Giant pork, complete and utter corruption going to the donors of both the Republican and Democratic politicians. They have instant agreement. In fact, they added $50 billion on top of what was requested. Why? Because they eat the corporate pork. That's what this is about. Now, okay, politicians are gonna do what's in their best interest, and their best interest is to collect millions of dollars in campaign contributions from defense contractors. Where's the media? The media is the one that leads the charge on how you're gonna pay for that. Isn't it amazing that no reporters asked how you're gonna pay for this monstrosity? This thing that swallows up our entire budget? And look at little parts of it too. The Taiwan part. Remember when Nancy Pelosi went to Taiwan? We told you, now that seemed like totally out of the blue. And TYT told you the reason she went was so that they could funnel more money to defense contractors. Go, oh my God, there's a problem with Taiwan and China. It is such a big conflict. We have to sell more billions of dollars of weapons to Taiwan. Oh, some of that has to be funded by the American taxpayer. Golly gee, where did that come out of? Well, we told you where it came out of. We told you why she did it, and here it is. Here's the conclusion of it. Did you hear anybody else in mainstream media tell you that? I mean, who was right and who was wrong? It's in the budget now, right? Came out of nowhere after Pelosi went to Taiwan, and here it is in the budget. We were right, they were all wrong. Turn off the mainstream media. It's not actually news, it's just corporate marketing. Otherwise, they would be furious about the overspending in this bill. Fred.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing beyond the fact that this money could be used for so many other things that truly make us safe, healthcare, housing, education, to name three basic fundamental human rights. It's terrible foreign policy. It just continues to be terrible foreign policy. And I say that as someone who honestly has a little bit of respect for Biden as a vice president because of some of the agreements he brokered with Iran and with with Cuba. I know John Kerry had a very big role in that too, but Biden also had a role in that under the Obama administration. But he's gone completely off the rails, honestly, especially when it comes to China, and more money to be honest with you, to bring us farther from finally addressing climate change on an international level. I know there was a recent UN climate summit that apparently China is on board to work with the United States, but every time we hand more and more money to like building up Taiwan's defense, et cetera, we get farther and farther from literal survival in this country. And so again, when it comes to the mainstream media versus like progressives, and even we don't do a good enough job in filtering through some of the BS that we're told about China and actually how to really de-escalate. We now just throw money at the problem. And I know we're gonna get into this, but these are people who fail the audit every single year. The Pentagon has just money unaccounted for. Completely unaccounted. Meanwhile, people who are on welfare to work programs because they can't get welfare. Oh no, they can't feed their kids unless they're trying to work every single day, taking them away from their kids, et cetera. The Pentagon, no, they can waste as much money as they want.
100%, and it's a lot of money. So we've given you the raw numbers. Now let's compare it, because the raw number doesn't really tell you if it's necessary. Maybe if the US military budget next year, instead of being $880 billion, was 800, maybe we would be immediately invaded along our north and south borders. I don't know, but what I do know is that it's more than the combined military budgets of China, India, the UK, Russia, France, Germany, Saudi Arabia, Japan, and South Korea. You can actually see in this chart the comparison of the two. The whole rest of the world like basically amounts to a rounding error after all of that. China has a very tiny fraction of the military spending that we do, but we will be told that if it was any lower, look, if you try to cut it, you are an insane radical. If you try to slow the growth, you're a crazy person, despite the fact that we spend more than basically everyone else in the world. Now, some people, thankfully, by the way, that was last year's figure, that chart we showed you. Our military budget is more than 10% bigger than it was in that comparison. There were some who did vote against it. Let's bring up the people who were willing to defy that. There's been a lot of talk recently thrown around about moderates and centrists, and that's being applied to people like Kirsten Sinema. I personally think that opposing a massive, needless, insane increase to our military budget seems pretty moderate, pretty reasonable. It actually comports with what people really want. And you can see there, members of the squad as well as others, a lot of names that you're gonna recognize.
Okay, I want to give credit to some of the progressives that don't often vote the right way. I love Katie Porter when she takes on corporate executives in Congress in those hearings. Jamie Raskin's been a giant in handling Trump and legal issues and many other things. But when push comes to shove, they don't usually vote with progressives. They usually do as leadership tells them to do. In this case, leadership, let's be honest too, there's a lot less pressure because leadership knew, oh, we'll get Republicans to vote for this as well. Every corrupt member of Congress is gonna vote yes. So we'll have plenty of votes, plenty. Votes are springing out of both parties here when it comes to corporate pork. But still, credit to Raskin, Porter, Chuy Garcia, and the other progressives that went along with the Justice Democrats and voted no on this defense bill.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.